Welcome to the BCAM podcast, where we believe better coaching always matters. My name is Michael Massucci, author of Elite Journey books and BCAM board member. My co-host is Coach Dan Young, the executive director of BCAM, the Basketball Coaches Association of Michigan. On this podcast, we bring in leaders for the betterment of our great game. Our vision is that every team across the state of Michigan has a great coach. We're so excited to have Mr. Billy Shellenbarger, the Superintendent of Clawson Schools, joining us today. Coach Shell, welcome to the BCAM podcast.
Appreciate it, Coach Young, Coach Massucci. Honored to be here. Truly a gift to have friends like you in leadership and in basketball, and to be sitting here with you today.
Coach, we have over 5,000 members in our association, all coaches. So they might be thinking, why do we have a superintendent on our podcast? Well, you have quite a basketball story yourself. Son of a coach, an excellent player growing up in Gladwin, college player, high school coach. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about your journey and what you're doing now?
Sure. Certainly a unique path, maybe a little bit non-traditional. As you said, born in the 70s to a father who was assistant coach for the Detroit Pistons for the first 3 years of my life. And that certainly lent itself to some fun experiences through the years with the Pistons, and a few of his friends they would get traded to other teams, and we'd go to other cities and see them and watch games in Boston and Philadelphia and things like that. So as a young guy into my middle school years, those were some pretty neat experiences. Eventually my dad moved on to the high school ranks and was a high school coach and athletic director at Allegan High School on the west side of the state in Michigan. And I think shortly thereafter became one of the founding members of BCAM. And he was on the board 4 years. I would guess near 30 years. So in the 80s, I certainly was at fond memories at Reed Fieldhouse in Kalamazoo at Western Michigan University of the first All-Star games. My dad was responsible for the programs for BCAM, so that was a big part of growing up, getting a program and getting autographs from legends like Sam Vincent in that All-Star game, the BCAM High School All-Star game, Antoine Jobert. Those are J.P. Oosterbaan, got names of just legends in Michigan. Yeah. And so in the 80s, that was a big highlight for me. And that was because of my dad's attachment to basketball and BCAM. And then, as I grew up, basketball being an important part of my life, we transitioned to up north in Michigan to a small town called Gladwin, Michigan, about 30 minutes north of Midland. And that's where I played high school basketball and had a ball. And my dad was my high school principal at the time, but certainly my behind the scenes trainer, because basketball remained important to our family. And that led me to some unique opportunities in my life related to, introductions to AAU and summer camps and traveling with him. And he spent a few weeks a year at Bobby Knight's basketball camp as a coach. And so I spent, I think, 8 years down in Bloomington. So experiences have been so valuable for me because of him and his relationships with basketball. And that led me to the BCAM All-Star game as a senior. I played in it, Grand Rapids Union High School. I think that Mr. Basketball was John Garavaglia of Southgate Aquinas. And my teammate was Thomas Kelly, who's now an assistant for Coach Izzo, and a lot of great names and fun that we had in that All-Star game. It was a highlight for my family and my school because I was the first to do it. So again, phenomenal experiences for us as a family and me personally because of the game. And then that transition to college, I went to Lake Superior State University and tried my hand at some collegiate basketball for a bit, and then fast forward to my own coaching career at Clawson High School down in Metro Detroit. Coached there for 5 years and had a ball. Really enjoyed what that gave me. It was a unique space to now be in the huddle, calling a timeout for the first time, for example, as a 35-year-old young man.
And an outstanding coach, by the way.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, we played. I traveled to Westland, John Glenn, and played against Dan. Traveled to Shrine High School, played against Mike, and that brought me relationships like you both because of coaching and many more. So what an enriching experience, and goes back to relationships, right, guys, and what those kids provide us, and they gave me so much more than I gave them in that time frame, and what an experience. But it's, and I'd still be doing it if leadership wasn't true and growth wasn't truly my passion and what I work for every day. So, becoming a high school principal and now a superintendent certainly was a path I wanted to take. So you have to set some things aside and sacrifice some things, and coaching hoop was one of them. But, the beauty of that and things like BCAM and relationships with people like you all, and, I keep my toe in it, right. In the basketball waters in the state a little bit, and with BCAM being the organization that it is, and that opportunity to be a part of such a phenomenal organization has allowed me to do that. So the path has been a long one leading to for this 50-year-old guy right here, but and certainly non-traditional. But again, guys, the value that it has brought me related to relationships, related to accountability, taught me so many lessons in my own life that I'll forever have, and I use daily as a leader in the public education space, and but also as a dad. I'm a dad to a 10-year-old. I coach his 4th grade basketball team, and it's probably the hardest I've ever had to work to get a W. And we're doing okay this year, but as 3rd graders, it was a struggle. But we're doing a little bit better this year. Having a ball, but stretching ourselves a little bit and trying to teach them a little bit more each week, and hoping that they're getting something out of it. Certainly having fun and enjoying the game like I did. It's I think it's happening. So it continues to be a part of what I'm doing, and I love it, and I'm blessed because of the game of basketball. That's for sure.
That's great. I want to
Long answer, Coach, but
oh no, that was just right. I want to turn our attention. Without a doubt. I want to turn our attention to the Aspiring Coaches Program, but before that, you mentioned your dad, Papa Shell, Coach Shell,
Yep.
The original. On behalf of BCAM, we want to thank him. I mean, what a stellar career as a coach, an administrator. Now he's a grandfather. I mean, he is really the exemplar of what all coaches should strive for. Just a really genuine, great man, and left
Papa
a
Shell
legacy.
He was a BCAM board member for many, many, many years.
Yeah, he'll love hearing you say that. Both of you, thank you for saying that. Yes, he was. I think Dan, it was the better part of 30 years, and being a part of BCAM was a highlight for him. And that was probably the last thing in retirement he gave up. He stuck with that for a very long time, and it was that important to him. And he poured a lot into it, and I appreciate that about him and the work that he did. Like I said, looking back to 1993 and being a part of the All-Star game of such a tremendous organization, I'm not a part of that if it's not because of without guys like my dad paving that way for us. So
send the video of Stone's games to Papa Shell so he can break them down, and he'll give you good feedback.
They get broken down. He shows up, and then he texts me after and breaks them down, and we try to.
Good.
I'm just trying to get these young fellas to make a layup, let alone learn how to.
Good
do
luck.
The mic and
Good
drill,
luck to Stone on those on that feedback. So the Aspiring Coaches Program. When Coach Young and I were talking about, the growth of our game, one of the things that we really thought about was it's a really tough time to be a coach. Maybe without hyperbole, in the history of our game, it's really tough to be a high school coach. And so we're looking for ways to support coaches. This podcast is a vehicle to support coaches. But the Aspiring Coaches Program was another way that we thought we could help better prepare, get more talent behind the bench and in the huddles. And we felt like there's obstacles, whether it's experience, the right mentors, the right networks, or even the interview itself. We figure there are a lot of really good coaches that aren't interviewing well. And so we created the Aspiring Coaches Program on those principles. Like, how can we help better our game? Our mission is that every team in the state of Michigan has a great coach. And Coach Young will verify this. The very first person that I called to help on this venture was you, because you have all the right qualifications on really what it takes to understand that whole process. You played at a high level, you coached at the high school level, now you are leading a district. And so when we brought you onto the team, Coach, you really helped shape our mission. And one of the things that you do a great job of is really getting our coaches ready for the interview. Can you talk a little bit about what you tell our coaches? Maybe not, we don't want to give away everything because we want them in the program, but just maybe a shortened version of where coaches are falling short in the interview.
Right. I appreciate that, Mike. I've been fortunate to sit across the table on hundreds of interviews, both, teachers and parapros and coaches and you name it. And the one thing that really sticks out for me is preparation. For example, as the receiver of these candidates, I would love to hear from them, say prior to an interview. You submit your information, for example, to a system, and many just leave it there. What we talk about is taking steps related to preparation and setting yourself apart. That might be a phone call. I'll take that phone call and talk to you. Maybe that's an email. I'll take that email and I'll read it, you introducing yourself and reattaching your resume for me to see and giving me a quick synopsis of who you are. But it's it's things like that, among many, that candidates can do in their preparation to separate themselves. And an overwhelming abundance, very simply, and it's not just coaching, very simply, do not do it. They click
one of the things you did, Coach, was you put up your resume and you contrasted it with resumes that you get, of course, hiding the names, and you show them point blank where are they falling short on those resumes.
Well, to me, Mike, it goes back to pride, and this is taking pride in what you're doing, and that is whether you're applying at Google or Amazon, or to be a mailman, or to be a coach at Clawson High School. If you're doing it and you're going to click the submit button, I'm just simply saying, hey guys, take pride in that. Take pride in your preparation. Take pride in the product that you're handing me, and do everything that you can to separate yourself before you even sit down for the interview. Get us to a point where we're looking forward to meeting you because of what we know coming in, not just the piece of paper. Certainly that piece of paper is important, and certainly taking pride in that piece of paper shows, because we get many that it's clear that don't, and it seems quick and hurried, so what we do is, to Coach Massucci's point, I put my resume out there, put myself on blast, so to speak, to say, this is what I feel over time from many people, many great leaders that I've learned from. They would say that this is a product that someone has taken pride in and has prepared for an opportunity. Here's what that looks like versus many, many, many others. So it's giving them some resources in us three to say, come to us. Let's talk about your resume. Let's talk about the interview. Let's talk about what I should do. Should I have one of my references call the principal, the athletic director? Do I send an email? Do I call that person myself? Who should my references be? Those are questions that we want to help answer and be resources for these young coaches to say, there's a lot to it before you call your first time out. And number one is getting in the chair for that interview and being prepared from the time you see the posting until the interview, and then being prepared once you're in the interview and taking those steps to be fully ready to go and use us as resources.
Yeah, and for our listeners, we go through that process, step by step. And Coach Young, you've really as an executive director, I have so many responsibilities, but you've really taken this program on in a personal way. You're personally involved. You have personal relationships with the coaches. Do you want to talk a little bit broadly about the Aspiring Coaches Program, what it means to you, and even the fact that you go out and you see first or second year coaches, people in our program, you see them at practice, you see their games, you write them encouraging emails. You want to talk a little bit about how you see this program as part of the overall BCAM experience?
For sure. Our fall clinic is for coaches that are ready to go. Our spring Aspiring Coaches Program is exactly that. We're helping coaches to get ready for a job. You guys, I can't thank you enough, Billy Shell and Mike, for your professionalism and just the experience you bring to the table. You talk about it was so cool when Billy Shell was a principal and he got the superintendent's job during the spring of going through the Zooms of the, I think it was year 2 of the Aspiring Head Coach Program. That was really, really really cool for the whole group to celebrate with you during that, stressful time. I remember we were on the Zoom and you were waiting to hear if you got it, and it was just amazing. But this is one of the most important things we do at BCAM, is helping coaches develop, and more importantly, when they get a job, to help them succeed in that job. That's why we go visit. That's why we text and email, and that's why we are there here as a support. All three of us, but we've done a really good job of bringing coaches from all over the state to speak to our aspiring coaches when we have our live event. And those coaches are also been mentoring and staying in. Well, once they meet our young coaches face to face, we've been averaging about 5 to 6 coaches have gotten jobs every spring, after our event. And I'll be honest with you, ADs are now calling us, emailing us, and saying, "Who do you have in your file? We'd love to talk to someone who you might be recommending at this point." And we don't recommend everybody right away. And I do want to say this: you can come into our Aspiring Head Coaches Program, and you don't have to be ready to be a head coach yet. That's the whole idea: is to just learn from both of you, maybe myself a little bit, and then eventually maybe you'll have a chance and you'll feel comfortable and confident that you can do that. And then you'll feel that support from all of us. So it's one of the best things we do. And I just appreciate you, both of you, for, working so hard for this.
So the setup is a 3-day session, 2 Zooms, 1 live. This year, April 22nd at 6:30 is our first Zoom. Our second Zoom is May 8th. And our in-person session is May 10th. We've had some outstanding speakers the first 3 years. We've had Coach Beeline, we've had Coach Camp, we've had Coach Stevens from Western, Coach Mann from Grand Valley.
Greg Mitchell from Hope College.
Greg Mitchell from Hope College. Coach Shell, can you talk a little bit about our live session, what we've done the last 3 years? And I liked how Coach Young mentioned the word mentors too, because we purposely put some high school coaches and some college coaches in their space, in their world. They've met them, they handshake, looked them in the eye, and many of them have kept that mentorship going. Can you talk a little bit about that live experience and what a coach might look forward to experiencing?
Sure. The one thing that really sticks out, Coach, is that, bringing in our panels, that's been fantastic because, there's certainly a diverse range of schools that, host varsity basketball programs in our state. For example, where I grew up in Gladwin, that's very, very different than Gladwin High School is very different than Birmingham Brother Rice High School in terms of the kind of players that you're coaching, the parents, the differences in the community. And the stories abound beyond that. So what we have done is we have, because of Dan's relationships and Mike's relationships with so many great coaches, we've been able to put together panels with a diverse group of coaches from all over. Coaches that stick out are Coach Donnelly, of course, from U of D, Coach Taylor from Saginaw High, TJ Mearsma from
Juan Rickman.
Westside, Coach
Juan
Guy
Rickman.
from Muskegon.
Guy,
Just some state champion caliber coaches who have coached Mr. Basketball, but
Steve
also
Ball.
coaches who coach in schools that have maybe not gotten out of a regional. So putting them in the room with our aspiring coaches gives them an opportunity to pepper them with questions and find someone to connect with related to their own program and hear the stories that, hey, at Saginaw High, Coach Taylor, who's a great friend of mine, he might have problems with parents sometimes too. They can be difficult as well, or certain types of players can be more difficult than others, and we can relate to those things, and it makes us gives us the opportunity to take a breath and go, okay, it's not maybe just my program or not just maybe my community. So being able to relate to these coaches and then walk away with quite literally their phone number to be able to reach out to them and talk to them about, we even say, guys, when you're down 2 with 4 seconds to go and it's on your sideline, call one of these guys about those scenarios and ask them, what's your favorite sideline out of bounds play down 2 with 4 seconds to go? What would you do? If you're not doing that, then you're not using this program correctly, and we're not giving you the right opportunities. So having these panels of tremendous coaches with incredible resumes in front of them has been impactful. But we also have brought back some real legends, the likes of Rick Albro, for those of older heads out there. Coach Albro's was a coach at Aquinas, East Grand Rapids AD and coach, and you name it, been everywhere. Michigan State women's program. And he walked in and did a session for us at 78 years old. And his energy was that of an 18-year-old. And our aspiring coaches got so much out of it. So just putting value in front of them related to the individuals that are a part of BCAM, that are in our state right here, that want to be mentors, that want to be a part of this program, to answer questions, to talk about their experiences, and really have a up close and personal opportunity to talk to these young future head coaches. It's fantastic.
Coach Albro is actively mentoring 2 new coaches from our program.
He's unbelievable, man. Unbelievable.
And so one of the, and it's kind of a tired phrase now, an old Jim Rohn phrase, that you are the average of your 5 closest people. So just imagine what your coaching career would look like if you put 5 of the greatest coaches in Michigan in your circle. And so one of the things that we want our aspiring coaches to do is have no excuses. We don't want to hear an excuse you didn't get a job because you don't have the networks. We don't want to hear an excuse you didn't get a job because you don't know how to interview. We don't want to hear an excuse that you didn't get a job because you don't have the right experience or the right mentors. We're going to help you with all of that. We want great coaches in our huddles. So, Coach Young, your thoughts about any advice you'd give these coaches on, again, why they should attend and what they could get out of it, and any final thoughts on the program?
I just remember John Beeline and Campy both saying, boy, I wish I had this when I was coming. Mm-hmm. I know I was kind of taken aback by that, but it's true. It's going to be such a wealth of knowledge. I mean, I take tons of notes during all of these sessions, and I've learned a lot because I'm trying to also, in the monthly newsletters and the communications that we try to put out, we're always trying to help others and serve and get better and do a better job when you're in the gym with kids. And you can, we've all had, years where things were really hard and other years that things went really well. And we're going to help you get through that. So I just think it's just invaluable. And don't put the pressure on yourself that you have to get a head coaching job right now. You just got to keep learning. And this is the best thing we do because it's back and forth. It's whatever you want to make of it. And I wouldn't trade this for anything we do. This is the best thing we do other than our podcast.
Mike, Coach Massucci, can I
yes.
add?
Please.
I add that?
Please.
Very, very briefly. Leadership can be lonely, guys. It can be lonely. And And I'm talking about my own experience as a superintendent. You have to have people to lean on. You have to have a Rolodex to call and have coffee with and ask questions. And, well, what about this? How would you handle that? Because if you don't, it can be very, very lonely. I do that and do a lot of things not great, but that's one thing I lean on people a lot. I'm using that as an example for being the leader of a basketball program in a district. And I say in a district because it's not just a team, it should be a program. That can be lonely. And what Aspiring Coaches does is create a network, as Coach Young and Coach Massucci said, around you for you to lean on, learn from, call, text, email, bounce ideas off of. If it's a separator, in my opinion, for those who don't have that network and those who do have that network because of BCAM. And then it builds even bigger because most of them go from there to the fall clinic to being active members of BCAM, and it only grows from there, and the network even gets bigger. So
exactly,
don't be a lonely leader. Don't do it because it'll hurt you and back you into a corner. And truly, with peers and that network, you will succeed. You will.
I like that. Thank you for that. So I'd encourage head coaches, athletic directors, principals to encourage your sub-varsity coaches to attend this. Your JV coach, your freshman coach, your 8th grade coach, even if they're, like Coach Young said, not ready yet. We've had 14 coaches out of our 3-year program become head coaches. And many of them, it was year 2 or year 3. They were in our program for 2 years. The 3rd year, 2 coaches earn head coaching spots. They've failed in a few interviews. We were there to support them. Then that 3rd one, they pushed through and they got it. And it's such a good journey to be on with a team behind you and that believes in you. So coaches that are listening, that are head coaches now, we'd love for you to encourage your sub-varsity coaches to attend. So, Coach Shell, your district hired one of our stars.
Yeah.
Michelle Lindsey was in our first class, and we thought it'd be a good idea to invite Michelle on and talk to her a little bit about her, experiences in the program and what an unbelievable season she's having so far. So,
breakout season.
It's really really fun. It will be fun to talk about. So we're excited to have Michelle Lindsey join us.
She's fantastic. Having a great season. We're lucky to have her. We've been blessed with, prior to her, Kelly Horn was our coach, who's now our high school principal and had to step aside and won a lot of championships there and then handed it over to Coach Lindsey. And after a year or two of getting moved up in those big conferences, you get moved up when you win. And, it was tough for a few years. And Coach Lindsey is here doing a fantastic job. I think they might be 16-2, tied for first in their league in the Macomb area conference.
Awesome.
And she's a delight to have in the gym. Her family is there, and her legendary high school coach is there in our gym, and they've really embraced Clawson and what we're doing. And we've embraced her. She's a class act, and fortunate to have her in our gym with leading our kids. And hoops is great, and running a program is great, but she's a high character human being, and what she's doing with kids related to leading them to also be high character, integrity, high integrity kiddos is a gift for us. So she's the best. She's fantastic. Very happy for her and us and our kids.
All right. So we'll have Michelle join us right now. There she is. Coach Lindsey, thanks for joining us. We were just talking about you and the impact that you are having in Clawson in your year 1 there. But we want to rewind a little bit and talk a little bit about your playing experience, because you played for one of the great coaches in Michigan history at Marion High School for Coach Mary Lily Cicerone. So can you talk a little bit about your playing days there and about playing for such a legendary coach?
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, so I played for Coach Cicerone at Marion for 4 years. Man, she was probably one of the hardest. Just got the best out of every player that she coached, which was amazing. And she just was all about life lessons and not just about coaching basketball. So you didn't really realize a lot of it when you were there running the suicides, and she's might be going a little crazy, but at the end of the day, you realized that it all paid off in the end, and she just had a bigger vision than what we saw. But she's a great coach, great person. I talk to her almost every day.
How about that? That's amazing. So
That's mentorship. That's mentorship. Love it.
Coach, she walked into our gym 2 weeks ago on a Friday night, and I was nervous to, like, I wanted to introduce myself, and I just couldn't bring myself to do it. She's has an aura, and she's such a legend that she had me nervous.
Yeah,
that's funny. That's funny.
yeah. She
So
had all of us nervous.
I want to take us to that moment where she came and watched your game, but I want to talk a little bit before that about your season here at Clawson, your year one, and but prior to that, you were part of the Aspiring Coaches Program. Could you talk to the coaches out there a little bit about your experiences in the Aspiring Coaches Program? What maybe some seminal kernels that you got from there, and how it impacted your coaching career?
Yeah. So yeah, this was 3 years ago, I would say. It was the first one.
First one.
I remember, Shell, you were, I think, the Zoom class one resume building, I believe. And I remember I just submitted my resume to Marion probably a week or two ago. And then I heard your conversation and I was like, oh man, wow, this is going to be interesting. But I mean, the mentorship, the academy was awesome. Just hearing about all the coaches in the state of Michigan who just talked about their experience, and I was just able to pick from here and there on these coaches. But I think most importantly was meeting those other coaches who have the same goal and vision as you, that are really passionate about the sport, and being close with them. I mean, Eric Evans, for example, even Evan Bell, we've talked a lot in the past 3 years. But it's the relationships, even you guys, Dan and Mike, we've stayed in touch ever since. So it's really just the relationships that you build that are huge, and to go forward.
So you're at Clawson. This is year one, and you're having such an incredible season. I mean, I don't want to overstate it, but I think you're in first place right now, and you're tied for first, and you're preparing for the state tournament. Can you tell us a little bit about your team, your season, and what year one's been like?
Sure. Starting at Clawson, I really didn't know what to expect. You kind of see their records the last couple of years, and you're like, okay, this is going to be, let's see what kids show up. The thing about Clawson is they all play 3 sports. So, here I am in the fall trying to get open gyms, and there'd be times I have one kid, there'd be times where I'm able to run 10 to 15 kids. But they're all so busy. So they're all serious about sports. They're serious about, their fall sport, their winter sport, their spring sport, and they're just athletes. They compete at the end of the day. They might not be the most skilled basketball players that I have, but they want to win, and they have that itch in them, that flip of the switch when the ball gets tossed up, that Clawson grind. So that's
awesome.
Yeah, it's been great.
That's awesome. So,
Mike, if I could,
yeah,
add,
please.
That, a couple of weeks ago they battled for the other team that they're in the tie for first place for in our gym on a Friday night, and the crowd was alive, and the student section was strong, and Coach is right, and this comes from her leadership too. But I mentioned Coach Lindsey about some of the coaches that we put in front of the aspiring coaches, the panels, and just putting an eclectic group so everybody can draw something from a like school, for example. And Clawson is unique in that our kids do play 3 sports. They don't specialize necessarily, but they're athletes. And to watch them play for you, and they were absolutely grinding. And especially on defense. I think Coach is holding teams under 30 points a game, and our girls' noses were in the chest of our opponent that night, and they weren't scared. They dictated tempo, they dictated pace through their defense and that gritty Clawson style. And they're responding to Coach Lindsey big time, and you can see it. And it was a phenomenal environment to be in. High pressure. First time a lot of those girls have been in a game like that, of that magnitude. And man, did they respond. And kudos to you, Coach, for having them prepared. And clearly they look at you from a leadership perspective and want to play for you. And man, that's neat to see. Well done. Well done.
Yeah,
fun stuff.
It is fun, and that's what you play the sport for, those Friday night games, big showdowns. But going back to defense, I mean, that brings you back to Coach Cicerone. That's kind of what she instilled in us was, it doesn't matter. You can have offensive nights, right? The ball might not always go in the basket, but your defense can be consistent every single night. Your defense comes from your heart. And I mean, that's what she preached. And, and again, going back to our Clawson team, they might have days they struggle to put the ball in the basket. They're not the best shooters and this and that, but if we can get defensive stops that lead to transition layups, I tell them we can play fast break basketball. We can, we don't need to run an offense because it is a little stressful for them. But if they can dig down and play defense and get stops, we will be in every game.
Well, they're hearing your message, Coach, loud and clearly.
Coach Young, can you put into perspective how you feel as the executive director, seeing, Coach Lindsey from our program, played for a legend, now making high impact at Clawson? How does that make you feel as a director of our association?
Makes me smile. Makes me smile. And it's been fun to, go through the highs and lows with you and be there for you. And we also appreciate you keeping us in the loop when things are going on. We got, Coach Shell to brag about you and send articles about you, but you've also done the same thing. It's been both ways. And we talked earlier in the podcast about taking the initiative as a coach, whether it's in the interview or when you get the job, and learning from others and attending clinics and asking questions. And that's you. That's you. You're close with your high school coach. Your high school coach is helping you. You're communicating with her. You've been in contact with us, and we're very proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So it seems like we have a formula here: talented coaches, the right mentors, and support from administration. You get those three things, and that can really impact a huddle. So, Coach Lindsey, we want to just congratulate you on your season thus far. We want to wish you all the best of luck as you prepare your team for the state tournament. Hopefully, Coach Young and I can sit with Coach Shell in the stands and root you on during one of your games here shortly.
Yeah,
it's at your alma mater, Coach.
That's right.
13 Mile in Woodward.
Okay, let's do it.
You gotta be there.
I like those short commutes too. That'll be nice.
Mm-hmm.
So,
thank you guys for having me.
Yeah. So, Coach Young, any final thoughts?
Just for our membership to understand that this program, Michelle Lindsey is proof of this program, and she was a great high school player, played in college, played for a Hall of Fame coach in high school. It's had her ups and downs, but she is now settling in year 3-4 of her career, and that's what it's all about. And that's why we do this, is because Michelle Lindsey now is now taking that step with confidence from the support she gets from our association. So to me, that's the best thing we got going.
Coach Shell, Coach Lindsey, thank you for joining us. I think Clawson might be the luckiest place on earth to have two people like
great
you.
People. Well, we're great people in Clawson. Coach Lindsey's now a part of the squad. We couldn't be more fired up.
I love it.
Great place to be.
Clawson is a great place to be. There's something great going on there, and it's a credit to you two for helping that. So I'd like to close by just encouraging all coaches, athletic directors, school officials to inspire their younger coaches to join the Aspiring Coaches Program. For more information, you can go to our website, and we'll link those spots on the podcast link. Thank you for all the feedback that we're getting from our listeners. Thank you, coaches, for the positive emails. We appreciate your support. Please don't hesitate to go to our podcast and rate us a 5-star. Those kinds of supports help us with our sponsors. Thank you and have a good night.